Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good evening, wherever you may be tuning in here. This is Yonks, and this is now our sixth working group. I don't know if everybody can see that here for working on our Hero X American-made challenges team submissions, and that has now evolved into two team submissions, and we'll likely kick off the third one here tonight. But we've got a new contributor besides the normal team here, Tyler and Amy. We have Nick on with us. Welcome, Nick. Would you like to do a quick introduction?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Yonks. I'm CTO for a startup called Pixel Chain Technology Corporation, and they're a company who's building a multi-signature wallet, and we're just trying to make things really smooth for everybody who's really doing key management for any kind of blockchain solution. As we all know, blockchains are really controlled by keys, and everybody thinks that a wallet is what holds their funds, but it's really about that key management, and we're just trying to make that all butter smooth for everybody out there. And then I'm also kind of getting my own little startups going on some AI solutions where we can load up documents and you can ingest kind of any information that you have and ask questions in natural language. So that's my background.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Looking forward to seeing how that you end up contributing here to what we're building. And on that note, Nick and I are going to be hosting our very first meetup. I'm going to come back to that. But one of the things that I wanted to put forward to the universe at large is that we are still accepting new teammates for this project. And this will become even more apparent here coming up here shortly. And I'm not going to go into all of these details right here, but these details are on our project page as well. So keeping down the list, so the upcoming contribution opportunities to finalize, and this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about here. Right now, we're looking, and let me go ahead and open up our calendar, and this is one of the things that we're wanting to get a little bit more presence on our website, and we'll be talking about that here tonight during our agenda. But right now, we're just doing a real simple Google Calendar, and this is on Web3 Freedom Club. So looking at next week, we're wanting our team submission, and let me actually change this to a monthly view here. So looking here at September, so we're wanting to have our team submission done on the 19th, and we're looking to do an office hours here on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then another working group Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and then our final one probably on either Monday or Tuesday where we'll finalize. So one more office hours. And just to recap, our office hours are really like, and we'll be talking about some things that we may talk about. I'll get that those let us meet circulated to everybody so that we can make sure that we get the best time window. So this was something that I talked about, looking forward to this. Cryptorado is, and that's actually where I met Nick at the Seed Stock Cryptorado happy hour. And this is by far my favorite meetup with the various types of meetups. And we're actually going to be hosting our very first meetup here in North Denver at Satire Brewing on Thursday, and that's September the 14th. I'm going to throw this link on the live stream chat so that everybody has it. And do you want to chime in? Any thoughts on that, Nick?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think this Satire Brewing meetup is going to be great. There's not a lot of people I found up here in this kind of northern Denver area. I found some people down in Boulder that have meetups and in Denver. But and even up in Fort Collins, I think they call that NoCo. And it was so funny when Yonks put this together. We kind of threw the words together, North Denver, and it just spelled out node. And I thought that was pretty cool for blockchain. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hoping that we can kind of provide a venue for people who don't have a very close by place to go. And I think that this North Denver meetup will be a good opportunity for us. So I've been throwing out some feeds and trying to get some people who are near us to show up there. But yeah, this sounds really exciting.
And it's by far my favorite craft brewery. I've known the proprietor, the headmaster of this brewery since the late 90s. So we go way back. So looking forward to this. He said he's got plenty of space for us. So we'll be talking more about that here throughout this next week as well. Because we'll probably have our office hours and probably our first, I'm not sure if we'll have our first working group, because that'll probably be we'll see how it falls out on the Let Us Meet though. So anyway, looking forward to that. So one of the things that wanted to talk about, we love experimenting with different Web3 types of tools and stuff like that, and wanted to talk about how that we can best leverage this Crypto Rado event for what we're building here. Do you want to chime in on any thoughts that you've got on this, Tyler? And I did ask my mom, by the way, to come watch Brooke for us, so we should be good to go to full blow this from both perspectives here.
So my number one thing is we have a 2-year-old, so any weird noises, any shrieks, any toddler music that's coming out of me is that a thing. So a couple things. The Crypto Rado group has like 2,500, 3,000 members in it. So I'm actually really curious how many of them never go to seed stock because it's just too far, and they actually do live somewhere in the north area, or at least north is more convenient for them to get to. So I think it'll be super interesting to see who's there. The other thing that I'm excited about is crypto. I always meet really interesting people at Crypto Rado, but there's never any structure to it. Having some unstructured and some networking time, but really just kind of presenting, this is about real world assets and this is about solving a really interesting problem. And if you want to be involved with that, cool. And if you just want to network and drink beer and just do whatever you want, that's fine too. I'm really excited to promote that for people that don't necessarily just want to network, they want to be involved in something, because I think what we're building is super cool. And as we've been researching it, we're finding that people have been trying to solve this problem in this way for at least a decade that we found, maybe longer. And we really think that we kind of cracked the secret sauce on how to make it happen, but there's a lot of support for what we're doing in academia and in different circles and white papers and what ifs and news articles and government stuff and project pages. So we're finding a lot of people that are interested in the same thing that we're doing.
So if it's not on your calendar, put it on there if you're here in the Colorado area, and I'm going to be reaching out to some other people. But we've got some more time to kind of think of some ways that we can really amplify the exposure for this. And one of the things that we're really wanting to do, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about here. I can't remember if I really got this as an itemized agenda thing, but we're wanting to create a change.org petition for doing this decentralized social or community. So it's decentralized community solar. So DECO and then solar EV. And we're positioning that as decentralized community solar and EV charging for gig workers. So let's keep on going down on the agenda. So one of the things here that this is actually the first time that we're positioning this working group. The last working group number 5, was a very pivotal working group where we pivoted from quad co-op into solar EV. And here's this is the first time that we're actually using this decentralized DECO community solar. And in case, because a lot of people probably won't get what this is, so solar EV, this is pretty easy, like solar and EV, most people get that. So this will be a really unique opportunity, and we'll show how unique that is. So anyway, one of the things that's really became apparent to me is community solar is a widely it's a unique thing, I think, from the United States. And I circulated a podcast that just got shared here from Clean Technica. I don't actually have that on my agenda. But one of the opportunities that I'm actually going to go through here, and I actually created a DWork task on this, but I'm wanting to enroll as an individual to join the National Community Solar Partnership, the NCSP. And DWork, I'm going to go ahead, this is an embed that I've got. I'm going to go ahead and click this and open this in another window. So DWork is how that we're doing task management. And this is actually something that we're going to reward some tokens for people that go through this particular process, because this is one of the mechanisms that will really allow us to connect as participants here within this DAO, connect with other movers, contributors, vendors, whatever. It looks like, and let me open up this resource page here. So this is the National Community Solar Partnership. And let me just read this paragraph right here. The National Community Solar Partnership is a coalition of community solar stakeholders working to expand access to affordable community solar to every U.S. household and enable subscribers and their communities to realize meaningful benefits, such as reduced energy burden, increased resilience, community ownership, and equitable workforce development. I don't know, but that sure sounds like a worthwhile endeavor to me. And this is one of the things that wanting to, when opportunities come up, the more that we can position ourselves as knowledgeable subject matter experts on community solar, but more importantly, learn how that we can utilize this Web3, this blockchain technology to make this happen. And that's one of the value propositions that we're going to be doing. And one of our even more unique value propositions is the decentralized. And this is one of the things that I love doing here real quick. I'm going to actually open up in an incognito window here on my Brave browser, Google window. And this is one of the putting terms in quotes. So we're going to see here community solar, how many Google search results that we see. So let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody here. So Google has almost 2 million results that they have indexed. Now let's actually change this to decentralized community solar. So this is how exciting this niche is. Look, a video that I just created like 5 days ago, a playlist, decentralized community. Folks, there's only less than 1,000 results. And this is actually the most important opportunity, because when we're talking about decentralizing, what that functionally means is that we're not going to be using the public utility grid. And that's one of the unique value propositions, is that we're like with solar EV, like the parking lot, there's 3 main components. There's the parking lot, obviously. Then there's the solar panels, there's the battery storage, and EV charging. And that's one of the unique value propositions here, is the ability for us to capture the energy, store the energy, and then distribute the energy all on site without any additional infrastructure. So anyway, that's one of the narratives that we're going to be creating here for our upcoming projects. So based upon what you started to research, Tyler, I know that some of this has started to bubble up. What do you want to talk about that I may have missed there?
So a couple things. One is I had reached out to a professor at Kansas State University who wrote a white paper about carports just deploying solar. And he actually, I thought it was just this white paper, but he actually wrote a book and he wrote a bunch of material on this. So the first thing that I'm looking at is kind of the academic angle, who's interested in this from a research standpoint. The second thing that we are looking at is we're reaching out to city, state, local officials different departments of various governments that have initiatives on this. It crosses over so many different things, community improvement and energy and providing jobs and just different kinds of, we fit into a lot of different initiatives. So I'm compiling a list of people that we need to reach out to on that. And then the third thing is we're looking at the builder partners. So it might be a restaurant owner or a commercial parking lot or a solar developer who actually is an expert in the construction of this stuff. So those are kind of the three groups of people that we're really interested in connecting with right now. So I'm just kind of doing that research right now, compiling it.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things that we're working to get better at is using some various tools here, like within Notion, for working more collaboratively so that we're not like basically doing the same thing over and over again in our own little vacuum. And that's one of the reasons that we love this format, is that we share very openly the methodology that we are doing ourselves as far as when we're going through various tasks and or initiatives. So, and that's one of the reasons that we're creating this. And this is, again, a bounty. And let me share this link on the live stream here. So this is the join as an individual. And I'll share what that looks like during our next office hours or working group, maybe even both. Because this looks like the best opportunity that doesn't have a price tag surrounding it. There's other trade associations and stuff like that. I'm not going to talk about that here on the live stream, maybe on the office hours, but this is one of the free efforts that the U.S. Department of Energy, and I just shared the DWork task on the live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and close up both of these windows here. I was just looking at the events page. There's an upcoming conference here, but that starts tomorrow in Las Vegas, and I'm not personally attending that because we're focusing on this team submission right now. So anyway, moving on down the agenda. So one of the other things, this was an absolutely fabulous, this solar futures study, and I'm going to bring this open in the window here, and I'm going to share this on the live stream as well. Solar futures study, and this was a pretty exhaustive research report. I haven't went through all of this myself, but this is something that I would encourage people to go through and look at. And this is talking about the opportunity that solar deployment and the impact that it will have here and stuff like that. So this is another opportunity to learn more on this technology. So this is, I'm not going to talk too much about this. Here's another resource. This is a webinar that the NCSP did here, low income community solar subscription. And Colorado is actually one of the states that's participating in this development aspect. Another one that I would really encourage people, I would probably actually prioritize watching this video over the one that I just talked about if you had to choose between the two, because this one is really talking about, let me open this because this isn't just a link. This is a page that on the energy.gov website talking about how the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act is the billions of dollars that are available largely through income tax credits. And this is one of the things that will be exciting for us to figure out how to make great use of, especially with our lower profit modality. And anyway, so this isn't something that I've watched. This is a resource that just bubbled up on my radar, but it'll really help everybody to understand, again, the some of the how that this impacts solar deployment. This is exactly what we're talking about here, is a solar deployment. So Community Power Accelerator. So this is the second of the Hero X prizes that we're submitting an entry for. And this is a great website that really talks about some additional resources that are available. And I don't know if there was anything on here that was kind of, this is actually, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, this credit ready checklist. Let me make this bigger here. So this is something that we can use to kind of like have some better, and this is largely dependent on site selection. We don't have a site yet. Now we do have a house here, and that's where we're doing the live stream from. And it'll be interesting to see how that we submit. And one of the things, and I don't know if we want to go off on this tangent right now. Let me go ahead and close this window. But one of the things that we need to decide on, as we only have, today's the 10th, and we're really wanting our narrative to be finalized here within 9 days on the 19th. So the thoughts is, should we create our narrative only surrounding the parking lot aspect, or should we do it around two models, the parking lot with the solar canopy and the single family house aspect? What are your, go ahead, Tyler, I see you opened up there.
Yeah, I think we should do two, because the models are similar, but they're different enough. I mean, we're not going to put a level 3 fast charger at a private house, and the model is much more geared toward Tesla co-op. So I think we should do two separate ones, because doing them together, I think, is going to create a lot of confusion.
When you say doing them together create a lot of confusion, I'm not sure if I was following that.
I think just in terms of doing similar applications, I think we need to talk about level 2 versus level 3, and marketing toward a very small group of users versus kind of the general public. There's kind of different models.
Well, I would personally love to leave the single family house aspect on there, because I really think that that's the best decentralization opportunity. And I think it may be a unique value proposition too, because there's a lot of community solar developers that are doing community solar gardens that are utilizing the public utility grid. And this is one of the big value propositions of our decentralized model, is it negates the dependence on the utility grid. And one of the things, and I don't know if this would be a good time to talk on the tangent here, and I'm just scrolling through our agenda because I don't know if I actually did a good job. Let me bring this in here as another bullet point, because the other third contest, and let me just scroll down here to this. This is from our main project page, solar EV project priorities, funding and capitalizing. So right now we're talking about, these are the two Hero X prizes that we have to finalize our narrative for in literally 9 days. And that's one of the reasons that we're going to be doing the 1 office hours and the 2 working groups here within the next 9 days, is so that we can really get our team submission finalized here. Now, the community energy innovation, this is the one that I really think that we should structure our narrative more surrounding, because this is the one that we're going to have a full timeline to work on. And when you look at like what I think is like the most important aspect of what we're wanting to do is this right here: provide support, build trust, and strengthen partnerships with underserved communities while advancing the clean energy transition. And the underserved community that we're focusing on is gig workers. And that's one of the things that will be exciting as we start having some conversations as far as looking at some strategic areas as far as identified opportunity zones. We've talked about opportunity zones, and one of the things, this is actually where I met Amy, was on an opportunity zone clubhouse. And there's still, I believe, strong opportunity to utilize opportunity zones for doing some of these capital and infrastructure situations. And I don't think that there's anybody that's really paired a community solar aspect. And one of the things that I think also makes Colorado more unique is the way that Colorado increased the amount of energy that can be generated from a single family home. So we're kind of going off on a tangent here, but wanted to bring this back to the Community Energy Innovation Prize, because this is not one that we had created a team for. So before we go through and create a team, solve this challenge for the Community Energy Innovation Prize, does anybody have any reservations? Amy, you've already went through this process with us. I'm going to let you talk as far as circling back. And just to paraphrase, we're wanting to create our narrative around two solutions for solar EV: the parking lot canopy and single family house.
Which one are we submitting? The EV project?
It's all going to go under a solar EV, because that's also one of our unique value propositions, because we're targeting the gig worker community as an underserved niche, or the underserved community. And that's one of our unique value propositions, is that we can pair gig workers to these decentralized energy resources, like whether it's a parking lot, which would be, in my opinion, the no-brainer, or the single family house. What Tyler and I are suggesting is that we are intentional about creating both of those solar EV situations within our narrative for all three of our team's submissions.
I think the situation calls for approval by the city if you wanted a fast charging mechanism in a home. And unless that is solved, I think we need to just veer towards the commercial aspect of it being in a parking lot. And I'm sure you understand why. But
so
it's up to you.
I'm fully aware of what you're talking about there, and I'm confident, Amy, regardless of whether we're able to install a commercial charger or not, that we can get workarounds in place using some type of technology or solution, because that's one of the things that we must get great at anyway. And right now we're really planning on leaning into Tesla. And like from the EV standpoint, I think that there's an opportunity to utilize Tesla API data to really be able to do the billing on a per person basis, regardless if we, and I'm pretty sure with the House bill that Colorado passed, that I think that we'll be able to get the commercial charger anyway. And I think that it will be easier for us to have the conversation with the city when they understand the bigger vision that we're talking about. Because when we're talking about the parking lot, that's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. I mean, we're talking about improving the parking lot, and any sensible person, when they're given an option to park under uncovered or covered parking lot, any sensible person all day long will always choose a covered parking lot. So we're increasing the value proposition of the parking lot while deploying clean energy solutions that will support the local community. So I think that'll make it easy. Go ahead, Amy.
I also have some thoughts about that. If we are building on a parking lot solely targeting gig workers for the usage of it, will limit our monetization of the product that we are putting out there.
And,
So,
to be clear, we're not going to limit the utilization of this public infrastructure to only gig workers. There will be, and whether they're a gig worker or not, we're not going to restrict joining the DAO as a cooperative member if you're a gig worker or not. So what we're wanting to do for the gig workers and or any of the members in the DAO is provide a reduced pricing. I still think that with the pricing that exists in the metro area, I think that we'll be able to have a reduced pricing for everybody, and then even more reduced pricing for our cooperative members, whether they're a gig worker or not. So we're not going to have that be like a we're wanting this to be very inclusive, where it's available for the community at large. All right, well, before we go through on this, solve this challenge, I want to actually talk about why that this is so amazing from a timeline, besides being very aligned with what we're wanting to build here. So from a timeline standpoint, this literally just launched like less than 2 weeks ago. We started this solar EV project, Quad Co-op, prior to this. And right now, there's an upcoming webinar. This is something that I would encourage everybody to add to their calendar here, where you can register. So we've got all the way from the end of till the end of 2023, all the way to February the 2nd for submitting our clean energy ecosystem, which is what we will be submitting for under here. So that being said, this is one that I'm very, very excited about. I'm going to switch to the solar EV profile here real quick and enroll our team to solve this challenge. Oh, that's the wrong one, because we're actually under Web3 Freedom Club. And this is something, Nick, it's super easy to create a profile. I would encourage you to do that on Hero X. That way that you can be sure to get added to our teams. I'll send you some links via email to make it easy for you. And it should be like, actually, it should be easy for everybody, because it's on our link tree here at Solar EV Co-op. And I'll throw this on the YouTube for everybody. Links to join our HeroX.com teams. So these are our project links on here, and I'll update this when we get the but yeah, just go through the process of signing up for HeroX. And let me get this one over here. So
all right,
we're gonna go ahead, Nick. I see you have your mic open.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. This is very interesting too, to hear some of the different perspectives on, you know, if we're going to tackle this from a, you know, looking at this from the covered parking lots versus the houses. And yeah, I'd love to get in here and kind of read through these. So thank you. Yeah.
And to be clear, like we're super close. We're maybe, and I'll bring this up. I'm going to come back to this right now. I'm going to get back to this community energy innovation, but remind me, either yourself, Nick, or Tyler, if I get off and I forget about it. But one of the things that I mentioned at our Cryptorado is the ERC 1404. So let's talk about that with the opportunity, because there may be some opportunity to seek some DeFi protocol partners for capitalizing the solar at the single family house that we're already nicely monetized, because that's one that we have an immediate opportunity that could be our very first single family house within this decentralized community solar model that we're building out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll take a note that we should touch back on that in a minute, because that
Awesome.
was really interesting.
And it should be, and that's anyway. I could talk about the property tokens ad nauseum. So solve this challenge. I'm actually logged in here with the organization account Web3 Freedom Club. And this is one of the things. Web3 Freedom Club is an overarching ecosystem within, yet again, a nonprofit DAO ecosystem that we're building. So Web3 Freedom Club is and this is one of the things, I'm going to go off on this tangent real quick because this was pretty exciting. On September 1st, we actually submitted our tri-token DAO governance articles of organization with the Wyoming Secretary of State. And I'm going to show this up here on the screen a little bit here. So make this a little bit bigger. Oh, it's going the wrong. So we've got 3 different tokens anyway. We'll continue to talk about that. And I think we've actually got an itemized time on our agenda to talk a little bit about that as well. So anyway, getting back to solving this challenge here, solve this challenge and community energy as a competitor, accept. Yes, I want to create my own team, and we'll do all of that later. People will self-join and continue. Set team status is looking for teams. And let me just copy and paste this from our Notion agenda. So real quick, before I create this team name, how's everybody liking that hashtag Deco? So right here, this one.
I think you made a good point earlier about how solar EV was really intuitive, and I'm wondering how intuitive like DecoSo is. But
Yeah.
It's not.
It's
Right.
not at all. Yeah, Jason, I don't think that's gonna work for solar EV and let's brainstorm on some stuff that's not that long, but it's not that.
So, well, right now I'm already signing up. So I'm just going to do solar EV right here like this. Decentralized community solar. I don't know if I've got, we are building, I'll get this updated later. I think I've actually got some decent verbiage on this one here real quick. I'll just copy and paste that right there, looking for, I can't remember what I use for those people interested in using Web3 technology to solve real world problems. Yay, team has been created. You have successfully completed your registration. So I'm going to share this link on Zoom and on the live stream here for everybody as well for our latest team. So this is the Community Energy Innovation, I think is what it's called. Community, no, that's the old one. Community Energy Innovation is what it is. Team link. And I'll actually go through and just show how easy it is for everybody here on my own profile for joining the team. And this is what it'll look like for somebody that has already gone through the process of creating their HeroX team. I click join, register to compete. There's the competition for this particular one. And let me see if that's joining via working group number 6, Zoom live stream. I have no idea where that goes. Your request to join this team has been submitted. And now when I go back to the team page, invites and join requests, and whoever else wants to join, if you remind me that you accepted, we'll come back to that later. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, get back to our agenda here. Talked about Community Power Accelerator and went through and joined at the upcoming. So like I said, the timeline on this. So one of the things here that we're going to keep on talking about is how that we can use things that are in a timely manner. So one of the things that affects, I believe, 1.6 million customers, if I remember correctly, it goes into effect here this month, September. So this is something that I think that we could probably create some type of tandem in conjunction with our RTD change.org petition, because the more that we can reduce the energy, that means that the less likely that will Excel will increase the rates on that. So I've got a couple articles. I'm not going to show those articles, but does anybody have any thoughts? Like here we've got this very timely Excel energy rate hike going into effect as far as how that we might be able to utilize that.
I still like our $200 bill that even billed out to almost $1,200. So, yeah. That's going to be one challenge that's definitely not insurmountable, but one of the reasons why we like the whole commercial charge point solution is Excel bills different days of the week and different times of the day. And there's not just a way for us to just quickly calculate easily what energy we're using without either an API to Tesla data or some other source or a commercial charge point.
Yeah, I mean, our bills have gone up a lot here. I mean, we just got a solar installed, and it's still it's still painful. I mean, we're still paying quite a bit in our electric bills. So to me, this is a huge marketing point, right? That we can get people's attention. I mean, right now everybody's feeling the pain. Energy bills have gone up recently, and then in addition to that, even if you've had solar installed, you're still feeling the pain, right? So it doesn't even matter whether you are just a solar, somebody who's had solar installed or not. We still have the whole market to advertise to here, and capitalizing on this, I think is important for us to take people who maybe even as just an investor perspective could look at this as an opportunity to at least get some of that money recouped.
And I think that that's one of the things too that we can really put together as far as like some educational aspects on because what we're doing, I largely believe is a marketing effort. And it'll be interesting to see how people adopt this $20 initial onboarding cost into the cooperative. But since Tyler brought up the energy bill, here's the energy bill that she was talking about. This is the one from our proof of, and this is actually a scope of work that I did here for our flagship Tesla House co-op. And this was the even bill that Tyler was talking about, where we were on their even billing program. And this was the true up bill that we got And it was a $935 true-up bill that made our bill due on July the 11th, about 2 months ago, $1,144. So can't make that kind of stuff up. That just shows how poorly that Excel does with their even billing programs. So this is one of the things that we can create, I think, a good like one pager, because the opportunity to bring some like print off some handouts to our upcoming meetup on Thursday, where we can really leverage this momentum and actually give opportunity for people to take the next step, whether it's signing the change.org petition or whether it's joining our DAO. And one of the things that talking about when we're talking about creating a minimum viable product, and that's one of the things talking about here. So that was something that I talked about, the $20 a year. One of the things that I'm really excited about seeing if we can do is to provide 2 token incentives, like our security token, that we're planning on doing our offering for the first parking lot plus the Colorado Reg CF like larger bucket of money. So basically talking about creating like functionally $40 of real value for this, and that's of course future value. So that's kind of some thoughts there that I have, and I'm going to have this, we're going to start having the conversations here. I'm not sure if they're going to materialize with the security token platform providers. Like one that's towards the top of my list is DigiShares. I think they're digishares.io here. And one of the reasons that I like DigiShares is that they're building a platform, a white label platform. So that's one of the avenues that we're going to reach out to. INX is another security tokens, and INX.co. And another one is Securitize. And that's 3. If anybody's got any that they would like us to bring into the conversations, reach out to myself. DMs are open online. So I'm going to kick off those conversations on the security token platforms. Not sure if we're going to have anything solid here within the next 9 days, but we're going to go for that anyway. So going back to our agenda here. So any other final thoughts as far as using this Excel energy rate hike before we go on to this next item? So some of the DAO housekeeping items that we have, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here for people on the other side. So right now, we have functionally launched, and I just showed you our launching of Web3 Freedom Club, and we're looking to launch the same type of framework for solar EV co-op. And one of the housekeeping items that we have is to finalize, and I know that this is something that Tyler has been working on, and I don't know if she's going to be able to get back to the conversation. I heard Brooke talking about, and this is one of the reasons that I put this as far as a conversational item for the next upcoming office hours. But let me show the one that we used for retoken. So vote.ret.team is some DAO framework that we set up for retoken DAO. We are planning to reboot retoken DAO as P-token, as in property token. And the proposal that I was wanting to talk about here is the one where we upgraded or updated our operating agreement. And I think that Tyler's got some additional aspects within what she was working on than what we had. And I think, so here it is. This was retoken improvement proposal number 7. And I'll share this with everybody on Zoom as well as the YouTube live link here. So this is the retoken DAO operating agreement. Now, the main difference between what we're wanting to do with Web3 Freedom Club and Solar EV Co-op is that we're wanting to make a NFT membership-based DAO. We didn't have a member component within Retoken. So, and this was just the verbiage that we had put. This is one of the important things that we have to have within our operating agreement. And that was one of the things that was included within the articles of organization. It is that this notice of restrictions on duties and transfers would be included within our DAO operating agreement. So I linked up everybody on this. This is something that we're kind of drafting right now. And this is something that I don't think that we necessarily have to get finalized within the submission of our HeroX operating agreement. This is, again, just some good housekeeping items because it may be beneficial to include in there because we're wanting to start onboarding people. Like, I would really like to see if we can have a minimum viable product with our solar EV, our $20 DAO on solarev.coop. And this is how much that we have to do. This is a completely out of the box WordPress site that just got set up literally a couple of days ago. But I think that we can get this online and functional with the minimum viable product by Thursday. So that's kind of what we're going to be working towards behind the scenes, and whoever wants to help out with that, reach out to me. I don't know. Are you back, Tyler? Or are you not back yet?
Yeah, I'm back.
Did you want to throw in any additional conversation about the operating agreement? I know that you'd worked on some stuff, but I didn't see that it got in here.
I don't think I added it to the Notion page, but in I did write a membership agreement for how you can subscribe, what your rights and duties are as a member. So just for everybody, it's going to be $20 a year. We're going to set up Stripe so that if ideally we'd like to be operating all or mostly in crypto, but we know that a lot of people are going to be brand new to this. So we're going to be doing a credit card option for onboarding. Once you're onboarded, then one of the requirements is anything ongoing has to be in crypto. So we can be on the blockchain.
To be clear, that's still kind of yet to be determined to see if we can get it functional, because one of the aspects that I'm a little concerned about getting that functionality is with how and where our affiliate marketing stuff is going to exist, because that's not something that we're going to have on chain. So
yeah, fair. So so basically I wrote the membership agreement. It's a draft. You guys are welcome to give me any kind of input you want, and we can get that changed, something we all agree to. And then the other thing was I beefed up our white paper a lot. So that's what I was working on most of this afternoon. Was I think we've got a pretty good start on it, maybe even close to a draft. And that's something that I want to prioritize, just making sure that people think that what I wrote is okay. And if I missed anything, that we add to it or edit or whatever you guys want.
Did you guys have a link to that white paper?
Yeah, I do. Let me make sure that it's on public, and I'll put that out here for us.
Thank you.
And kind of the thoughts are with the white paper, and it's actually linked within the right here under the solar EV project priorities, which is on our Notion project page. It's under the marketing section, and it's got a link. I'll get you added. Is the email address that you shared there, Nick, is that one that is Google? Because we're doing that on the collaboration for the white paper on Google Docs.
It actually forwards to a Google address. Yep. Yeah, that'll
All
work
right,
fine.
cool. Awesome. So I'll get you added as an editor on that. And that's one of the things that we're working on. And I'm not sure like how much that we necessarily need to have the white paper finalized, because like right now we've got this timeline of the 19th, and the main reason for the timeline of the 19th is that we're doing a family vacation, and then we have some work. So like the first or the last week of September, the first week of October, Tyler and I will be offline and doing other things besides building this project.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm gonna just curb further conversations on the DAO housekeeping items till the upcoming office hours, and that'll be a deprioritized thing for the office hours. And that's mostly just kind of doing some mashup as far as some different stuff. And this is, of course, something that we will float by. We've already had an initial conversation with a potential attorney in the cooperative Web3 space, and we're having another conversation this week on the 14th with a potential cooperative attorney. Doesn't have the same depth of Web3 or blockchain experience. So that was all that I had here for the specific itemized agenda, but I want to go through because we continue to add, and the reason this highlights up red is that this is a sync block. And what I mean by that is that the same thing shows up on our project page, which is right here for the same block right here. So since I'm here now, I'm just going to go through this. So we already talked about doing our new team for the Community Energy Innovation Prize. This one right here, I'll get the link updated on our link tree and make sure that people, the most important ones here, especially for you, Nick, is to go through these two so that you can be added as an official team member for the upcoming submission here. And the big opportunity that I'm really excited about this is that we'll be able to get feedback from our submissions for these two teams that we can use to enhance upon our submission for this one. And if we do a great job, who knows, we may even win some money and move forward with this, because we definitely will need to see some proliferation there. But the main thing here with this section 2 is that I would really encourage everybody to always be thinking and looking for funding opportunities. There's hackathons. I mean, we already have team precedents of winning a decentralized governance hackathon back in 2021, and the opportunity for doing things, and this is something that we're going to continue to talk about. So this is something, the parking lot, that was the one of 2 proof of concepts that we're working on. And I'm not going to go into details. We've already talked about these. So I'm going to move forward on the funding and the capitalizing. So we talked a little bit about the white paper. The online presence for Solar EV Co-op is an ongoing work in progress. I already showed the website for Solar EV Co-op. The social media stuff is a work in progress. If anybody has any interest of helping with this, and this is one of the things that we're trying to build some frameworks surrounding, looking forward to one of the tools that we're wanting to look at is Hootsuite, and we're always open to using various tokenized incentives for making the things. And as we get this dialed in as far as the model and stuff like that, that will only amplify here for the social media and stuff like that. So talked about the websites and solar EV, WordPress. Not going to go into details as far as why that we're using WordPress, but we're wanting to expand this initial WordPress into WordPress multi-site that will ultimately also house Web3 Freedom Club and other projects within the ecosystem. So that's one of the things that looking forward to incorporating. And one of the reasons that we love using Unlock Protocol is that it does have a WordPress plugin. And that's something that we don't even have installed on our website yet. So any other, do you want to chime in on any of this? Anybody, Tyler, Nick, Amy, on the any of the initial online presence?
I think I have a friend who knows how to execute a free press release so we can kind of like put it out there. I'm going to ask him again what the process is, and we could probably utilize that to promote. That way, if anybody Googles about us, we can be popping out there.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm not, this is not one of my strong suits, but I'll tell you, with the with this whole search engine optimization kind of thing going on right now, using tools like ChatGPT to generate content with search context as a targeted, when you produced a prompt and it can automatically produce blogs post for us, that can really boost us on those SEOs. I'm not an expert in these areas. I think a lot of the value of my time is going to be more in the technological kind of solutions, but definitely marketing is something I'm weak in, but I do know how to do it from a technological perspective and how to optimize SEOs. And it's a matter of content and those key search terms. And when we have something that can generate content for us, like a generative AI, we can target those key terms and generate content in a new way. So I think there's a huge opportunity here that we can play arbitrage before these search engines catch up.
So Nick, love where you're going with that. What Jason has on the screen right there is, I actually did a quick run GPT and said, make me a list of topics and subtopics within those topics about solar EV charging. Some of them apply more than others. Google is kind of weird around down ranking just purely AI generated content, but what you absolutely can do from a marketing standpoint is use these as prompts. And then my biggest challenge as a writer is not the writing, it's figuring out what to write about. Of what am I going to talk about again? It's solar EV, we build carports, we put solar panels on them, we charge. I mean, what else is there? So again, not all of these are going to be relevant to our project, but this is what I did to get things going. And hopefully everybody can, even if it's rough, start writing things or run your own ChatGPT on these things and then edit them. I think Google downranks if it's just pure GPT, but if it's generated and then edited, I think it ranks as original.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I think that's an important point. And not only would I position myself as a writer, but when you use ChatGPT, position yourself as a reader. So when you build your prompt, say things like, we are an EV charging solution, and or instead of that, say I'm looking for an EV charging solution that has ABC, and let it spit out that content, because this now puts you in the position of a reader, and those key search terms kind of flip, and it's a very important strategic kind of change to look at.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
And I think the most important lens that we need to look through, and this is the lens that I can speak to with a high degree of certainty, is that of a gig worker that's driving an electric vehicle or a gig worker that is thinking of driving an electric vehicle. Like one of the blog posts that I should write is why a 7-passenger black on black Tesla Model Y is the single best vehicle that anybody should be driving. And that being said, that's actually an opportunity that we haven't even talked about here, but one of the sub-communities that we're wanting to create within Web3 Freedom Club is Tesla Black. And that's going to be its own tokenized sub-community that, you know, and the more that we can incorporate a content strategy within this ecosystem that we're building out. And we'll be talking a lot more about Tesla Black here in October and beyond, because that's absolutely going to be a key component of reaching into our desired target niche of gig workers.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And even to those points, you know, that there are these when you go into these prompts, I love where you're going with this because it addresses so many of the use cases, but even take that step backwards and not just answer those questions or ask those questions that are very particular and pointed, like you're aiming at, because they are important and they're going to drive traction in that vector. But if we take that step backwards and we ask, why did you ask those questions? You know, how, like, what is the intent? And what is the thing you're going after? Like, what is somebody going to start with as their search to get there, right? Because they may not know that's where they want to end up. And if we can walk that path backwards a little bit and then put that into these generative AIs, you will end up with a whole new set of information that is things that we hadn't even thought of, that are avenues for us to get into. So just, you know, kind of what are the questions that people are going to ask to get into this space, right? And if you just put that into these generative AIs like ChatGPT, you're going to get all kinds of ideas, which is really powerful.
And I was just starting to put one of the things that I left off of here, and we're going to come back and talk about the Chat GPT stuff. But one of the things, this is a idea that have been kicking around for a while, you know, like these Facebook type of quizzes where, you know, it makes it real easy, like EV quiz for gig workers. And I don't know if there's a way that you can incentivize the quizzes and stuff like that, but like
It's
go ahead, Tyler.
It's pretty crazy how much information people just want to do for something that there is no prize. I mean, like, if you've ever had your Aunt Melba post about what kind of a corn dog she was in a past life or whatever, it's been really interesting because to get that quiz, she had to upload all of her records and all of her friends and all of her stuff. It says basically just, it's almost like connect your wallet, like upload all, and then they'll give you some. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I want to create something that's valuable and not just stupid, but people love taking these quizzes, and I want to make sure that we're creating something that respects their privacy and really answers their question, adds some value.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity to absolutely garner insightful details, but then also invite people to the conversation. Because, like, I think with what we're creating, especially with providing less expensive energy sources. So to put things into perspective, like, you know, in gas terms, if somebody was in our community, they might be able to pay $3 a gallon instead of $4 a gallon. And that's the goal, is to functionally be able to provide those types of energy discounts for what gig workers are normally paying out and about. Now, there may be some situations where gig workers are able to charge at home under normal circumstances. I don't think that that's the normal dynamic. And this is just me speaking from personal experience, because we've had 4 different electric vehicles. I don't even know how many places that we've been, Tyler, over the last 5+ years where we've been charging this or that different places, but it's a long list. Wouldn't you concur?
I would. And what is really interesting is if you have never driven a Tesla, when you're going somewhere that you're going to have to charge, but you don't know where, you put, I'm going to, 123 Main Street, Cincinnati, and it'll say, stop in Lusk, Wyoming, and then stop in wherever and charge for 15 minutes in, Idaho Springs, and charge 15 minutes here and charge 25 minutes there. There's this one Applebee's in Hays, Kansas, that we met this couple there in the parking lot. And then we kept meeting them for the next 3 or 4 charging stops because we were on the same road trip and they had to charge where we charge. So you get to know a lot of really weird little places in the country. But yeah, that's one of the things that we're excited about, is being able to open up the supercharging network and give people an opportunity for ownership. That's one of the things that, you can, I guess technically you can buy Tesla stock. And so you kind of own indirectly a piece of the charging network, but I have never tried to convince anybody to use a supercharging network because I own Tesla stock. Like, that just is not a connection. But if I owned part of the charging network, I would absolutely try and get everybody to charge on it. So I think that's the ownership component we think is going to be really interesting. And Amy, to your earlier point, anybody can use this network. And initially, we're going to market it to gig workers. But I mean, obviously, it's not going to be just limited to that. We want these chargers going as much as they'll go, because that's profit for the co-op. That's profit for everybody.
And that's what I'm trying to say. On the very beginning, it should be open to all already, is what I'm saying. Because if you try to gatekeep it into just gig workers, that's what's gonna stick in their mind, because that's branding.
Yeah,
and to be clear,
it's not going to be gate capped at all. The only difference, it's not even going to be limited to, if you're not a gig worker but you just want to be a member, you can be. It's an open co-op. The thing, it's kind of difference between we're aiming at gig workers, but we're open to everybody, and we want to be clear about that. There's just some extra benefits to being a gig worker, but it's not limited.
And the way that I understand, like, ChargePoint, their network, is that you can provide like a reduced pricing for like our cooperative members versus just anyone. And like there may, like, if we, for example, at the single family house, if we wanted to restrict the charging to only the people that were members of the cooperative, I believe that we could do that. But like at our parking lot, very public charging infrastructure, that's never been, we're wanting to target the gig workers so that we can have a installed user base, because that's really the people that need DC fast charging the most. Because we want to create home charging solutions for just normal EV drivers and for gig workers, so that when they come home to do their gig work, they don't have to spend time. Gig workers already spend enough time doing the driving around. Spending additional time in your car, like when you're not getting paid to spend time in your car, is not that desirable. So we're wanting to create home charging solutions as well. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about with using technology and getting the funding, is that I think that we can provide solid framework for building out home solar and charging solutions, in addition to the public charging ones at like a parking lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It being open to the public, I think, I don't know what software that company provides, but if we can tweak it into a way that when they try to charge, it'll give them an option to be member of the co-op, that would also grow our network.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw you had your mic open there, Nick. Did you want to chime in some thoughts here?
Yeah, I think, there's some really interesting things here that you guys are talking about. And I think how do we paint this narrative is really important, as far as I love this idea, but it gets rather confusing sometimes when we're talking about who is the gig worker. Are they going to show up at my house? I have a Tesla charger. I don't have a supercharger. It's not a corporate, it's not a commercial supercharger. But if
Nick,
they wanted to use it, would they just show up? Would they use it? What does that mean to somebody, right? And so when we paint that narrative, we have to make sure it's crystal clear what that means. Like when we say that we're going to provide this to somebody as a charger who's going to show up as a gig worker, are they using mine? Are they using theirs? How does all of that look? And then I think that just making it very understandable and digestible by everybody on where does the money go. But I think something Amy just said too that just like struck a thought in my head is, look, if I show up at one of these stations and I'm swiping and I'm plugging in or whatever, I need to charge, just like you guys are saying, right? I've got a Tesla and I love that feature. It's so beautiful. You plug it in, it's like I need to go here, and it just tells you stop at A, stop at B, and you'll be charged and you'll get there. But if we can get plugged into a system where now it shows you that, okay, well, when you go to A, would you like to, instead of paying $20, pay $50 and then get $3 every month after that? That is an attractive option, right? So like how do we position ourselves in a way that we can display and paint that narrative to our consumers, that not only are you going to use our product, but you can now benefit from our product, right? Now we're striking a chord with people that I think is on a whole new level that people haven't seen before.
Yeah, and
I think those are great questions. So two things. One is, and I don't think we did a great job because we've been talking about this so long, and I know you're newer to the team. So these are two different projects. The solar EV in a parking lot is not going to be the same thing as what is at your house. That's completely different. It's different in two ways. One is the market and the infrastructure of, you show up in an office building or a church or a car, whatever, like a commercial lot. It's only going to be level 3, which is the 1,000-mile-an-hour charging, that you stop there for a half an hour, you fill up, you leave. The home charging is geared toward a roommate situation where you've got gig workers who are roommates in the house, and they're constantly slow charging overnight at their house. So you've got 2 to 4 drivers who are known, who might live at your house, not your house, but might live at the house where the charger is. And then that's it. You don't have random people stopping by, because random people don't want 25 miles an hour charging. You do that when you're there overnight, and you can just plug it in and go to bed and it's full in the morning. So these are actually 2 different projects. They're 2 different audiences. And the whole idea with the co-op is on the back end of having one co-op, you've got one set of profit and one set of governance, but you've got 2 completely different audiences, and we're not interested in 1,000 random people showing up at your house to slow charge for 8 hours. That does not work. So I don't know if that crystallizes it at all. I think those are really good questions, but these were 2 projects that are similar but different. So I don't know if that helped at all.
I think I understand what Nick is saying, because that's the also the trend of my mind. If we open the parking lot, not the home, the parking lot, to people that would randomly charge, and just giving them the option to join the community so they can get either a discount right now or money at the end of the month, or however we do our accounting. That would be like a plus to them to join, is what I'm saying. And that can grow our community also.
And this is probably a good time to like talk about, because one of the things that just kind of bubbled up as far as terminology here, and we're starting to have some conversations with some attorneys, and we're starting to put some agreements together. We talked about like our DAO operating agreement with consideration as us being a member-based DAO. So one of the agreements that exist within this solar aspect is a power purchase agreement. So like we've talked about a couple scenarios. I don't really envision that you would have necessarily a power purchase agreement with a parking lot cooperative situation. But where you would have a power purchase agreement is in a single family house. And we, as we've already talked about, we want to incorporate a model for the solar EV aspect within single family house as far as one of the models that we're creating. So like in that type of an agreement, that because like when we talk about and let me actually go to, I think I've got a good page on one.quadcoop. So I think that this summarizes ideal. So like 4 gig workers here with 2 EVs. So like regardless of whether those people that are driving live in the house or not, this would be where we would have a power purchase agreement where a gig worker might agree to purchase $100 of energy at 17 cents a kilowatt or 19 cents a kilowatt or whatever the agreed upon number is. And then that's one of the things that it makes it easier for getting financing is if we come to a financing partner and we've got 4 gig workers that have a power purchase agreement of $150 each, that's a $600 a month commitment. And then the opportunity, like the house itself, to say, okay, well, our normal energy bill's $400, so we'll agree to a power purchase agreement of $300, because I think some of that's the car or whatever. So this is the kinds of agreements that we need to have in place that will make it a lot easier for seeking some. And does that kind of help put a different lens on the conversation as far as how that we're going to structure this from the agreement standpoint for a single family house versus, I don't envision now, there may be an opportunity because like, for example, let's say that we get really great at like onboarding gig workers. And then these gig workers say, hey, this is a spot, man, if we had a charger here, I would charge my car and I'd spend $100 a month to charge my car at this spot because I love the idea of that spot. That's a way, because like we get that kind of collateral in a power purchase agreement. Now we're talking some industry verbiage that people have seen before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think these things are making sense. I think where we're going to really struggle is, you got to tell people, look, you put $50 in and you get $10 a month out, right? Like, I mean, we just have to make it so kindergarten simple, right?
Yeah, the thing that we're absolutely going to do is not talk about the house charging and the parking lot charging together at the same time to the same people, because that's where there's a lot of confusion, number one. And number two, anybody can use the parking lot chargers. Not everybody can use the home chargers. If I've got room for 2 roommates, that's how many people can charge. I don't have room for 100 roommates. That's it. So just talking about the parking lots, that narrows it down, makes it a lot simpler. As far as the actual numbers go, one of the challenges we're going to run into is I would love to be able to say, give me $50, I'll give you $10 a month, whatever. So much of that is how much solar are we generating and how much usage is there and whatever. And what, like, do we have a massive amount of problems with the solar panels? Who knows? This is new. So I would love to say, hey, you can charge as much as you want, whatever profits there are, you get a cut of them. I just don't want to promise people something that I can't commit to from a number standpoint. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think there's two really important points here. I think that the first one is that going into this with a very clear directive, that I love the idea of the house and I love the idea of the parking lot. But when we're talking to people, they're going to get confused. And so just simplifying the message. Let's do the parking lot thing, right? That's the commercial. That's the big spectrum. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? You got a covered garage, parking spot, right? Right now we're talking about RTD, uncovered. Well, when there's the sun, it's covered. My car is cool. And when there's the winter, I don't have snow. And if there's hail, I'm not getting car damage. So I'm going to park under the solar all the time. And if we can propose that to RTD and we can get a vote on that so that the city allows us to build this thing and get superchargers involved, all of a sudden we're providing a solution that taxpayers don't have to pay for, and yet we can get funding for. And this can be a privatized operation, I presume. This is like win-win-wins all over the place. So there's that first huge benefit. And then, on the second side of this thing is that when we're coming in with these, with this kind of like solar EV solution, and we can just present people, and you're absolutely right, Tyler, that we're not going to know all the numbers up front, but I'm sure we can estimate them, and especially over like some pretty big swaths of the time frames and just if we just took averages, we could tell people, look, here's the average, right? This is what we're going to have to pay for the solar. This is what we're going to have to pay for the superchargers. This is what the cost of the electricity is going to be if we're not getting the sun, blah, blah, blah. And yet this is the minimum cost benefit you're going to get. You're going to, you pay your $30 to charge today, or you pay $50 to charge today. And every month after this, for the rest of your life, you're going to get $10 a month. I would choose that $50 investment every time, right? And that is the kind of thing that when we can put that in front of people, we're going to be a game changer. And that I think people would really understand the benefit of. Now, I mean, the only cost that I see outside of like everything we're proposing, this is the beauty of this model, is that it's like you can stamp this over and over again. The only thing you have to pay for is the maintenance and the replacement of these solar panels. And as long as we're doing a good job of factoring that into these averages that I'm talking about, we can come up with these models, and that's it, right? We've got to get down. You got to boil this thing down to just what do you put in and what do you get out? Because everything we're looking at here is great. I mean, I understand it and it makes sense, but the people don't want to digest that kind of in-depth information. So we just got to put an input output number to them. And I think we can really make this thing run.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that we're hoping as we find a solar dev is that they can give us at least some ranges of saying, based on our experience of building 1,000 of these things and whatever, that Jason teases me about this all the time. I am the Excel geek in the family. I love this. I'm like, we have to estimate, and how much shipping and how much this and how much maintenance. What's the average solar panel weigh compared to what the average carport can support? He's like, stop. Like this, I want to geek out and all that stuff. He's like, your numbers are going to be wrong because you don't have experience building 1,000 of these things. So let's find somebody who does and get actual ranges. And yeah, but I'm totally with you, Nick. I'm the one that wants to just estimate every single thing, and we don't have the right numbers right now.
So Tyler, if I'm understanding and hearing what Nick is saying, is that we need to just shelve the single family house thing and focus on getting traction with the parking lot model. Is that a great summary, Nick?
I think it is, as far as like, you don't have to do that. It's just, who are you marketing to, right? Like if we're talking to the mass populace, probably. But if there is like the gig workers, then we talk to them with a different narrative. But we have to be so clear. And when I say that crystal clear, that's what I'm saying, is like, just the simplest little message, people will get confused by more than 2 sentences. So what is the one sentence we go to the mass populace with, and what is the one sentence we go to the gig workers with? And if the gig workers involve real estate and plugging into somebody's house, and there's a benefit there, and for the mass populace, it is about going to the RTD park and ride and plugging in and getting your supercharger, or investing in that and getting a benefit yourself, as like, here, instead of buying stock, you can now buy our, buy our token so that you can get benefit out of the solar system. And we've got the government helping us invest into this and build this system. There's just a lot of wins I see right now around that kind of parking lot covered system. There's just so many things I see there that, yeah, that to me is the big winner. But I'm not saying we have to exclude the other one. I'm just saying we just need to paint those narratives very clearly.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. There's two things. I love the idea of just separating it out and focusing on one at a time. And whatever. When you said to be crystal clear in our marketing, one of the reasons why the house is a little bit different is Jason and I have been running Airbnbs for 6 years and mostly living in them while we're running them. And one of the experiences that we've had, which I think would probably surprise a lot of people who've never done this, is how many guests check in because they're kind of in between places and they just need a place to rent by the day or by the week for ever. We've had guests check in with us for like 7, 8, 9 months at a time. And so one of the appeals in the house is saying, hey, if you don't have a place to live and you don't have a car and you're renting everything, this is your chance to get ownership. It's absolutely a different target. It's absolutely a different sale. But a gig worker who says, hey, I have a job. I drive an EV. I don't need a place to live. It's not interesting. Completely different market. So yeah, there's probably not going to be a point where we would market these together because they are pretty different. But that's it's kind of loosely gig workers for both, but very different kinds of gig workers. Ones that are ones that need a place to live versus ones that don't.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think that's just it. If you guys are already planning to go to market with very different messages to different groups, then you guys already got this nailed down, and that's all I'm saying is just make sure that that's what we're doing, is that we don't, in these conversations, we can mix those lines because we're internal and we're having those conversations because we need to understand that business on both sides. But when we go to the outside world and we market these things, we shall never cross those lines because people will be so confused. So that's awesome. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and more than that, there's not a lot of reason. I mean, I agree with you, but there's just not a lot of reason to cross the lines because we're not aiming at the same people.
Well, but it depends. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the gig workers lens here because that's the, and this is me playing devil's advocate in the conversation, because if we actually pit ourselves in the gig workers lens as a gig worker, which I am, and I think I've done more gig work than anybody else on the Zoom tonight, is I need two solutions for charging when I'm doing my gig working thing. I'm needing one when I'm out and about because the 250 miles or 300 miles of range isn't quite enough to do a full day of gig work when I'm really hustling. But the last thing that I want to do when I'm done is go to somewhere to charge so that I can start my car or my next day with a full day of charge. So I need DC fast charging, but I also need charging for at home so that I can just roll the car in the driveway, park it at home. So depending on, and this is just like what we need to think through, because one of the things that is going to be tasked upon us at some point in the next 30, 60, 90 days, as we're continuing to work on the pitch and the story that we're telling. And it's going to be different stories because like when we're making a pitch to a potential site, and we haven't talked that much tonight about a site selection for finding a parking lot, but making a pitch to a potential site is very different than making a pitch to an audience of gig workers. And that's the thing that we need to always be considering of. When there's also a very different dynamic when we're talking about making a pitch to potential investors. And besides investors, one of the other opportunities that we have, and this isn't something that I have officially on our agenda, but I do think that there is an opportunity of doing Kickstarter. Kickstarter is an online community that has 12 to 20 million of people in their platform, and the opportunity to launch Solar EV, this NFT membership on Kickstarter right here that we've got as our minimum viable product, I think is a real opportunity. It's not something I'm going to talk much about here while we're working on finalizing our narrative. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to keep in conversation. So I think that it would probably right now, based upon what I'm hearing, just to simplify the narrative, let's focus for the next 90 days on the parking lot situation. I think everybody agrees that that's a no-brainer value proposition that everybody can get behind. And right now we have two marketing campaigns. One is helping me launch this DAO that we're creating. I'm going to be the poster child for the gig worker within this equation here. And this is something that I'm really hoping that we can figure out some good dynamics as far as where different niches, because like one of the niches that I'm encouraging Tyler to have conversations around is with libraries. So one of the things that besides this opportunity, and let me see if I've actually got, I don't even have anything on this particular page here, but I'm really wanting to get a blog post as potentially a multi-part series on this effort. And this is one of the things just to use to kind of talk about how that we're building this. And this is one of the things that like you can replace yourself in this. Like one of the things that I'm really excited about with how that we're structuring this, and we haven't talked about that much, is with our affiliate marketing program. But one of the other things that had a little bit of conversation about is doing a change.org digital petition for using RTD parking lots for solar EV. So this, in my opinion, is kind of like, if anybody has any vehement objection, this is the last time to really voice this, because this is something that I think that we really need to move forward with. But I would love to hear any counter objections to that conversation. No, I'm not hearing any objections. So this is something that we're going to move forward with. I'm going to get the change.org going. And I think that there's a real strong opportunity to use this in tandem with the Excel rate hikes. The Excel rate hikes are one of the things that nobody is excited about. Nobody wants to pay more for just living the way that they've been living, which is basically what an energy rate hike is. So I think that there's a strong opportunity to use that as some fuel for the fire to get people to take action to sign our digital petition and even potentially join as a DAO co-op member. And this is one of the things that, let me see what I've got for some bullet points here. So I've got provide 2 token incentives. We're wanting this to be a one-year membership that begins after we get our first site online within your local market. So this is one of the things that I think is a big value proposition, because this is one of the things that we can do using Unlock protocol, is we can delay the 1-year membership until, and this is one of the things that I'm not still quite sure how it will work from a technical execution, but we can kind of figure that out. But I think that we have a strong opportunity with a very low MVP of only $20 a year to attract people outside of targeted areas. And this is one of the things that, as we begin to have more conversations and gain more traction, we can expand the conversations. We're really wanting to create a blueprint that we can deploy on a state-by-state basis. But I'm looking at the time. We normally like to wind down about 5 minutes earlier to make sure that we've captured all the decisions and next actions here for where we're at. So that being said, we've got, like I said, I'm going to create the Let Us Meet for the office hours. We've got the meetup group coming up, and then we've got 2 more working groups that we're planning. But besides that, where else are we at? I'm gonna stop talking and share the platform here with Nick and Amy. I think Tyler's already hopped off.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a wise decision to focus on the covered parking garages. I think you said it very well, Yonks, that that there's just a lot of things there that feel like we've got working for us, both on some of the funds that can come in. And I'm still pretty new to this space, so please, give some breadth with what I'm saying, but it just really seems to make a lot of sense what I've heard so far, the funding that we can get, the benefits it provides to the users, the benefits it provides to the city. I think the city would be on board, and I think we'd get the votes for it because it's not going to raise taxes. So, and this is something that we can actually get, if you look at the voting mechanism too, and not only is that just something that people will do to enable us, but it would be almost an advertising benefit, because people would now know about it and see it coming, and they'd have their mind kind of around it. So I think this, my big takeaway from today is that that's a big win to move forward with. But yeah, I guess that's it.
I would agree in keeping the narrative simple, and that's the biggest dynamic here. Is I really largely view, and that's one of the things that I did here, is I actually reorganized these project priorities. We did have site selection even ahead of marketing, and I really think that with where we're at right now, if just leaning into this narrative surrounding RTD parking lot, and I wasn't aware how bad the situation was until I went to an RTD parking lot. And this is one, as you know, Nick, we drove by and I was talking about that. There was literally 17 cars. I'm going to give a little bit of leeway here, but this is one of the things that will be a very easy opportunity for us that are here in the Front Range of Colorado to just amplify through having some boots on the ground, because these are some of the most strategic real estate assets in the entire Front Range of Colorado as far as their access to important highway corridors that the RTD has secured over operating, that are largely going unutilized right now due to changes that occurred during the global COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm really excited about leaning into that. I think it's a no-brainer. Everybody that I've had some conversations with in person really can get behind that. And now we also have some additional ammunition with Excel raising their rates. And from what I understand, they actually had one of the most profitable quarters in 2022 based upon numbers here in Colorado, yet they need to raise the rates again.
I know I'm not in Colorado, but what does RTD means?
So RTD is the regional transportation for Denver, and they do bus and light rail. So the parking lots that we're talking about are the park and ride parking lots where they've secured where people can come park and then hop on the bus to like go downtown.
It literally stands for Ride to Denver.
Okay. I was just like, you keep saying RTD, and it's like, that must be something Denver only. Okay, thank you. But we will fine tune this as we go, because there's a lot to be said and contribute on how we will execute this. And on the matter of Hero X, if we could do the paperwork together like we did last time, that should help finalize all that 3 applications that we have.
And to be clear, Amy, we only have 2 right now. The informational webinar for the one that we just signed up for tonight, the webinar for that is not even until October the 12th. And
Okay.
then, and the way that I look for these first 2 submissions is that this gives us some practice. And then now we get to execute a full-blown marketing, team building strategy and get all the details finalized for the one coming up here. And more importantly is I still think that there's a strong opportunity to do our security token offering for our proof of concept site. And this will also give us this fall, this winter, to find a site for doing our parking lot canopy solar EV project.
Tyler DM me about looking for funding, and if you can put that in the bounty, because I've done my preliminary research, and they do ask if we are fast charging, which I think our parking lots will be. So we need to concentrate a little bit on the commercial side. And also they ask if we are for profit or nonprofit. So we need to decide which avenue we will take when we ask for grant.
So to answer that question, Amy, we're actually planning on structuring as a limited cooperative association operating as a public benefit corporation. So it's kind of a newer gray area, because I mean it's going to be a multi-stakeholder public benefit corporation, because we are going to provide the opportunity, but we're structuring it as community owned and operated. And I think that's one of the also unique differentiators for how that we're going to be structuring this is we really want it to be mostly community owned and operated. And that's one of the things that is going to be an ongoing work in progress as we're working to get this, because we're ultimately building a regenerative economy model.
I understand we're so avant-garde, but the application forms don't have those words in. So if we can like simplify it so we can get the money, just let me know.
Not a problem, and we can take that conversation offline to make sure that we check the right box on that particular form.
That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you so much.
So any final thoughts here before we call it a wrap? We're already a couple minutes over, and I love to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm so glad that you were on tonight, Nick. Welcome. Looking forward to more contributions in the future.
Thank you all. This was great. Glad to be here.
And I will say thank you to Tyler as well. She had to hop off because Brooke was rubbing her nerves the other direction.
I know how that goes.
Y'all have a good night, guys.
It was nice meeting you, Amy. Thank you.
Yep.
Nice
Have a good
meeting you,
night.
Nick.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.